So you've fallen for the clickbait. You're here because you're only interested in the money. I'm only kidding. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Kieran. I'm a junior doctor and a comedian working in Manchester. I've made a few videos about the finances of medics now. I made one where I broke down my payslip. I made one about my expenses as a 26-year-old doctor. I've compared my wage to the wage of a doctor who's a friend of the channel in India. But there's this little bit about doctors' pay that people don't tend to talk about, which is how you can earn absolutely loads of money as a newly qualified doctor. And by loads of money, I'm talking like 80, 100,000 pounds as a newly qualified doctor in the UK. To do this, you've got to be a locum doctor. Stick around to find out more. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you're subscribed so you can join the team. I've also noticed that so many of you are subscribed to the channel but haven't got your notifications on. Way less than the YouTube average. So please, if you're subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can get notifications when new videos come out. I'm going to explain what a locum doctor is, how much money locum doctors earn, how you can become a locum doctor, and then although it sounds very attractive, some of the disadvantages of actually taking on this role and earning lots of money. So to understand what a locum doctor is, we have to understand the training pathways of a doctor. In the UK, you do 5 to 6 years at medical school. After this, you do 2 years of foundation training. Foundation training is your first job as a doctor in the hospital. You're brand new, fresh face, full of enthusiasm, and ready to be absolutely exhausted by hospital. When you graduate from medical school, you have a provisional registration to practice from the GMC. When you complete your first of these 2 foundation years, you get a full registration to practice. That means in your first year, you can only work in that hospital. You can't work anywhere else, and it has to be in the role as an FY1 doctor. After that, you can work as a doctor anywhere. The foundation program is 2 years, so normally what people will do is that they'll finish their second year, their foundation year 2. After this, normally you go into training to decide to do whatever you want. When you're in these training roles, so either a foundation doctor or you're training for a speciality, you're on an on-call rota. That means you do nights, you do weekends, you do out-of-hours shifts, and it's quite a rigid rota, and you do have a lot of hours. When there's gaps in that rota that need to be filled, these are filled by extra doctors, by extra locum doctors. So a locum doctor is someone who's basically plugging gaps in the rota that can't be filled by the training doctors. After your FY1 year, you can work anywhere in the role of an SHO if you have the experience, which you will do in something like medicine or even something like surgery. The ideal scenario for the NHS and for hospitals would be that every doctor is in a training pathway and they're on call so that all of the shifts are filled. Because of the shortage of doctors, that is not possible. So there's normal 9 to 5 ward jobs in which there aren't training doctors that can fill that role. The person who fills that role is basically a stand-in doctor or a locum doctor. So it might sound like locum doctors are only picking and taking an odd shift every now and then, which they can do if they want to, and they can have that flexibility. But actually, there's such a shortage that if you wanted to work as a locum doctor every single day, you could do. You could easily fill your rota. How much do locum doctors get paid? Well, locum doctors, like normal doctors, are paid per hour. The reason for that is because they're not on a fixed term contract and they're just taking these odd shifts. The hourly rate of a locum doctor varies by location, by shift, by how urgent it is. If you're taking something last minute, it can be a lot more. If it's planned and it's 9 to 5, it might be a bit less. But normally, a locum doctor is earning between £40 and £50 per hour before tax. Now bear in mind that is 3 times as much as a normal doctor in the same grade. When I worked as a locum doctor, I was on just over £43 per hour. I was working a 9 to 5 week, so I had a long-term locum contract. I was employed for 4 months, working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday at £43 an hour. So you can see how that would really add up. So per week, I'll show you some of my timesheets if I can remove some of the information from it, but per week I was earning between £1,600 and £1,800. If you're doing overtime, sometimes you're earning even more than this. I wasn't working in a big city, I was working in the Midlands, but I know other doctors that are working in big cities that are being paid even more than this. I'm talking £50, £55 per hour for their normal 9 to 5 jobs. So £50 an hour at 7.5 hours a day is £375. So a week, that's almost £1,900. So in a year, that is just under £100,000. It's crazy when you think about it, because when I compare that year to the year before when I was an FY2 doctor, I was working less hours as a locum, I was doing no nights, I was doing no weekends, and I was earning twice as much. So let's say you're a doctor. How does a locum doctor actually go about finding work? Well, there's two main ways you go about it. Either you can go directly to the hospitals. So for example, if you've worked in a particular place, you might know the people that coordinate the rota. So you can email them and say, please will you add me to your locum shift group? So it might be an email chain, it might be a WhatsApp group, whatever, and they'll put the extra shifts out for when you need them. The other way is by going through an agency. The way that going through an agency works is you tell them, I would like to work in any of these locations. So for example, I would say within half an hour of my postcode, I'm happy to work for this much. I don't want to work weekends or evenings. I just want to work 9 to 5 and I'm looking for a job for the next 4 or 5 months. Can you fill my diary? And every time they will say yes. What I ended up doing and what I got told was the best thing to do was actually to sign up to more than one agency, because the way it works is that if hospital has some spare shifts up for grabs, they'll go to their internal bank of locums first and they'll say, does anyone want to take these shifts? There will always be extra shifts that are not filled by those, and they'll go to the agency. The hospital has one agency as their first preference agency. So that agency is like in with that hospital. So they'll be able to give those shifts out to people that are in with that agency. If that agency can't fill it, it goes to the next one and to the next one and so on. So you need to kind of have an idea about where you want to work and which agencies are involved with those hospitals, and then you know who to sign up for. Sign up to 2 or 3, they're free, the documents you need for each are the same, and it also gives you more scope and breadth to know what kind of work is out there. So if you can earn £80,000 to £100,000 as a newly qualified doctor, what is the point of doing anything else? Why isn't everyone doing this, and why are those jobs still available? Let me talk to you about that. First of all, there's a big shortage, so those jobs will always be available, especially for the next 10 or 15 years until there's a bottleneck of SHOs in this grade and everyone's cottoned onto it and everyone wants to be doing it. Number 2 is that I talked about I had a long-term locum role, so I was employed every day and they would have to give me notice if they wanted to change that, but that's not the case for everyone. For some people, being a locum is a lot less reliable of an income source. They can turn around one day and say, actually, we've got too many people on this ward, we don't need you anymore, please don't come in from tomorrow. And they are allowed to do that in some cases because you are just an extra doctor there. They can't do that if you're a doctor in training because obviously you've got contracts and you're employed. Also, while being a locum doctor, there's no career progression. So if you're in training, you are progressing to the next stage and the next stage. That's not the case while being a locum doctor. So for example, if you're a doctor training to be a medical consultant, you're doing core medical training, you're training as a registrar, and every year you're going one rung up the ladder. You could work as a locum SHO doctor for 4 or 5 years and you're still in the same place you were before. You've not progressed any closer to becoming a consultant. So some people might consider it a bit of a short-sighted, short-term plan, because really once you've finished your qualifications as a consultant, as a GP, the earning potential then and the sort of flexibility of life then can be a lot more. So people may think that actually, although I'm earning a lot more now, I could earn even more later on if I finish my training, and also then you've got the safety of knowing that those jobs are always going to be there too. In summary, being a locum doctor is an extremely lucrative thing to do as a young doctor. It gives you flexibility to work when you want to, it gives you twice the amount of money you'd normally have, with which you can do things like save for a house and maybe travel. But at the same time, it isn't the be all and end all. There's no progression, it's less reliable as an income source, and at some point in the future, there's going to be too many of these doctors and not enough shifts. But I don't see that happening for another 10 to 15 years. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you've got any questions about being a locum doctor, please drop them below and I will answer as many as I can. As always, if you are new to the channel, make sure you are subscribed so you can join the team. Take care, guys, and stay safe.